time being 5 o'clock on February 2nd, I will call to order the Personnel Committee meeting. First order of business is approval of minutes. If I could get a motion.
So moved. The button. Tom, the button. So moved.
We'll make it by Tom, even if I saw Gabriella nodding. Any discussion, comments, changes? Looks good to everyone? Okay, so all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. So we will move on. Public appearances for non-agenda items. Do we have people who wanted to speak on non-agenda items?
I did not have anyone email, and there's no one in the council chambers.
Thank you much.
You bet.
So going on to agenda items then, first is discussion regarding City Hall hours. This was a discussion item that was brought up by a staff member that was interested in talking about the possibility of adjusting some hours. And got his email on. It says, suggesting City Hall basically closed down, since it has been basically closed down since March, never really understood why hours remained until 4:30. He sees a process of 4 9-hour days and a half day on Friday from 7:30 to 11:30. It would be from Memorial Day through Labor Day. He believes it would increase morale for staff, especially on the main floor. Is it something that could be explored as an option? Would a citywide survey be beneficial to allow everyone's input? Who makes the ultimate decision? Not a big thing to explore now with other stuff going on, but interested in putting the idea in for exploration. Did folks have thoughts on that? First, either Gabriel or Tom.
I'd love to hear if Sarah has anything to say to start.
All right.
Yeah, so we do offer flexibility right now through the department heads. So if department heads can approve summer hours or flexible scheduling, they do have that ability already. I know that some staff had some reduced or, more like 4 10-hour days and didn't have a Friday to have to work last summer. It all depends on department operation needs. We do have our city hall that's open 7:30 to 4:30. And if you look at a couple of our comparables, they're open 8 to 4:30. So our clerk staff do have, and that's a separate from summer hours, but that can cause some scheduling conflicts. If, for example, if a clerk staff calls in and is unable to work the 7:30 to 4, now you're scrambling to get the other employee to work the 7:30 to 4, and then you still have no coverage from 4 to 4:30. So I don't know if that's something later on to look at, is just adjusting the city hall hours that were open. But as for summer hours, we do offer that flexibility. We just don't have we shut down every Friday at noon or anything like that.
Mike, did you want to?
And Dorothy, the mayor, Misty, and I, we're doing kind of weekly meetings at this point in time to catch up. So we did talk about this with our weekly meeting. And we felt that at this point in time, it was best to kind of keep the hours that we have, although Sarah shared with me now the morning situation there with the clerk's department that maybe we would want to check with Tracy on kind of modifying that from their staffing standpoint there. But when the mayor, Misty, and I talked, we came to the collective kind of consensus that maintaining that access and from a customer service standpoint for our Fitchburg residents, that we felt kind of keeping the current hours until 4:30 was important for our residents so that they had access Monday through Friday to be able to come to City Hall and take care of business. And we also thought that right now, since we are operating under the COVID protocols, that it was probably premature maybe to start looking at some changes. We're just now focused on trying to bring our workforce back when we're able to per the Dane County, Madison-Dane County public health orders there. So we just thought this maybe isn't, probably a good timing to look at adjusting some of our hours as we just kind of get back to hopefully regular order coming this late spring and summer, there to get back opened up for access for our residents and customers. I don't know if the mayor, he's gone right now, but I don't know if he has anything else to add, but we did talk about it with him and with Misty.
So you mentioned eight to 4:30 is kind of the,
Yeah,
The-
so, yep, so Tracy pulled some neighboring information. And so, for example, Verona, Sun Prairie, Madison, their city hall hours are 8 to 4:30. So that's just two of our comparables. Sun Prairie and Verona is often who we compare ourselves with when we're in contract negotiations, for example. So it would help immensely with scheduling, you know, again, to not have that 7:30 to 4:30 stretch, because most departments are 8 to 4:30, not 7:30 to 4:30. So that 7:30 to 8, you've got that period of time where, you know, there's not other staff really there. So it's not a very busy time either, per Tracy.
and eight to 4:30 is 8.5 hours, which gives half an hour unpaid lunch. Is that correct?
Right. Yep. Half an hour
And
unpaid.
They alternate the time when they
Yep.
take lunch, so it remains open.
Right. Yeah. There's always coverage during open hours. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, this is discussion item only, so we can let thoughts simmer. Did you guys have more, Gabrielle and Tom?
I'd like to say just one thing. I do like the idea of looking at options for expanding flexibility where possible, just because I think that's where the labor market is moving. And if we want to get the best people out there, you know, municipal governments, I think, need to keep pace as much as is feasible. And that's why I really appreciate that we created that telecommuting policy recently. And I like the idea that flexibility exists, that people can request that. And maybe this is just a matter of making clear to certain employees that want a flexible arrangement, say just for the summer months, can make that request and that it'll be fairly considered. Maybe that's like first step is just making sure people know that that's a possibility. And I think it's worth putting it on the list to consider down the line. But I agree that, you know, COVID puts things in different perspectives, and there's a lot of things to consider about access from the public. So if the recommendation from HR, the mayor, and the current acting administrators is to hold on this for a while, I would say I'd be in agreement with that, but I'd love to keep it on the list of things to revisit in the future.
Tom or Aaron?
Yeah, sorry, someone's coming to look at my old car and possibly buy it, so I had to give him the key quick. I think, you know, just kind of agree with what Mike had said, that, you know, for now, I think, you know, we are a service industry, and I think there's kind of an expectation that we're here kind of on standard business hours, Monday through Friday. Now, I do think that, you know, maybe opening at 8 instead of 7:30 might make a lot of sense, and I do think it's important to maybe get that input from whoever the next city administrator is, but definitely would be open to, you know, maybe doing 8 o'clock in the morning instead. I just don't think, though, that closing on Fridays or Friday afternoons is something that people want. In fact, there's probably people, especially in the summer, that have Friday afternoons off at their job, and they might be doing their errands and might say, oh, I'm going to go to City Hall and do what I need to do at City Hall on those times. So I just, as a service industry, it's kind of hard for me to say, yeah, we should do that when we need to be available for our residents. It's unfortunate, but we do have some flexibility with schedules and work from home for people who can. So.
Anything from you before we move on, Tom?
I guess I agree with the mayor. You know, if a department head wants to tell an employee that they can leave early, or they work that out for a day here or there or something, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But we're here to serve the people, and it's not the other way around. And you're here Monday through Friday to serve the people. And I think some people want to come on Fridays. And I understand that people want to get away that day, you know, make a longer weekend. I get that. but I wouldn't change those hours. I would leave it just the way it is right now. Hopefully, for other things too on this agenda, with the vaccine coming, things hopefully this summer will get back to normal somewhat, you know. I'm a big believer in it. I already had the first shot. And, you know, hopefully it's going to get better before it gets worse. And I'm going to say that again. If the department head wants to have an employee leave early, or they can talk to them and they come in early or skip lunch or something, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But don't change that Friday. Don't do it. We're here to serve the people, and it's Monday through Friday. That's all I have to say.
Can I add one more comment before?
Sure.
I just want to say that I totally agree that we shouldn't close on Friday, but I guess my understanding from what I read from the suggestion was that it wouldn't be that we'd close completely on Friday, but it's just like half the employees might have off, or there'd be more flexibility as a whole from the department. So, you know, so I've worked in an environment where we had every other Friday off, but it was basically like half the staff had one Friday off, half the staff had the other Friday off. So there was always coverage. It was just that Fridays are kind of light in terms of staffing. But I agree that, you know, we need to have city services available on Fridays, but I wonder if there's some sort of middle ground available as well. And once again, I think that maybe this is something that's better revisited once we have an administrator in place.
And I wouldn't mind when we get to talking about hours more seriously if we also talked about having some sort of Saturday hours for residents that work a full-time job during the day and cannot take time to come and do business with the city. So the discussion would be what kind of needs might residents have that might suggest that Saturday hours might be appropriate. So, but we can move on from that. Next up is the city administrator survey results. If you want to talk a little about that first, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen, but we had about 132 responses to the survey. It went out January 20th and it just closed last night at midnight. We had paper forms of the survey in the foyer of City Hall, and then we had electronic version available. We had it on our social media. We had it on our city webpage. So I'm going to share with you just a snippet of what the desired characteristics. Oops, my light went off. Okay. If you should see my screen in front of you right now. So we've got the top 3 business characteristics desired by the community. So the first one was local government experience. That was the top business characteristic. The second one, budgeting and financial experience. That was 34.1% of respondents indicated that. And then the third was striving to ensure diverse stakeholders are heard and involved in decisions. I went on to look at the next 2. Practicing active listening was number 4 as the most desired. And then number 5, having that supervisory experience. So then this is just kind of gives you a look at what the different options were. So you'll see, you know, strong written communications, effective public speaker, practices, well, we mentioned practices, active listening, planning experience, and so on. So basically people were able to rate which were the most important to them. And then if you scroll down here, we've got the top 3 personal characteristics desired by the community. Number 1 was integrity. About 65.9% of respondents indicated someone with integrity is very important to them. Number 2 is someone who is respectful. And then number 3, values others and their opinions. Number 4 was actually the diversity inclusivity minded characteristic. And then number 5 is someone who is a collaborator. So that just gives you a kind of a snapshot of from the community, and this includes employees, what they're looking for in a city administrator. Any questions about just the snapshot of the top characteristics? No? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen then. Oh yeah, Gabriella.
There she is.
I guess in terms of the composition of the survey respondents, did you feel satisfied that you had enough representation of staff, of like maybe some electeds, and then also of community members?
So that's something we didn't measure. We didn't catch the demographics of the folks that filled out the survey. We didn't ask them specifically if they were employees or if they were, in the community. It was really just asking them about which characteristics were really important to them on a personal level and then from a business standpoint. And then we also had additional comments that we collected so that we could it would really help us in the recruitment process. If they had suggestions or ideas or things that they wanted to emphasize, the additional comments section was really helpful there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I got a lot from the comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Go ahead,
I'm gonna
Mike.
stop sharing my screen.
I just had a question. Sarah, did we do a survey like this last time?
Yeah.
For the city administrator recruitment, and I was just
Yeah.
wondering how these kind of compare maybe to what we heard last time.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we did do this in 2015. Back then, we only had about 74 or 77 respondents. So we definitely had more participation. I don't have those results in front of me. I could certainly, send that out to the group later on. But unfortunately, I don't have those results in front of me. I could see if I could try to open it up quick. But we had quite a few more people participate in the survey this time around. And we actually had it open for a shorter period this time because of, we're trying to get this posted next week sometime. So we didn't want to have the survey open too long where, we don't have a lot of time really to work with. We've got 2 acting administrators that are doing basically two jobs right now. So doing our best to try to still get input, but work on a timeline.
Can you also send us the summary charts? I don't think those were in the packet, were they?
Nope. Yep, I will send you the summary charts. Actually, I'm just opening up the survey results from 2015. And it looks like, 6 years ago, the highest characteristic that everyone was looking for on the personal level was integrity. The second one was valuing others and their opinions. And number 3 was someone who is respectful. So that is incredibly close to, that's exactly what we had this time. Integrity, respectful, values others and their opinions. And those were the top 3 in 15. And then as for business, everyone wanted local government experience. That was number 1. And then the second was strong organizational skills, and then budgeting, financial experience. So very close again to what we had in 15, but we had added some characteristics such as, being able to ensure diverse stakeholders are heard and are in the process, and having that diversity and inclusivity mindset. So that wasn't in the 15 survey as options. So hopefully that helps.
Probably in the comments from this one, was there anything that surprised you or kind of stood out to you?
I think there were trends. The integrity piece is very huge. I think and a very strong background check. There were multiple comments about making sure we're doing the best job to get as many references and do a very thorough check. And diversity really rose to the top. While it wasn't in the top 3, I think the community really wants to see someone who's behind diversity and inclusion and is going to have some initiatives and have some proven results to really move the city forward and hold department heads accountable and, challenge and inspire staff too, to have a passion in this. So I think that that's really important to the community according to the comments and the survey results.
Gabby or Tom, any thoughts particularly from the comment section from you guys?
Not right now, not for me.
Okay, anyone else? Okay. Then we don't need to do anything with that, correct?
Nope, just
Okay.
sharing for your information. I'll send everyone the graphs a little bit later.
And the information was not included in the packet either, right?
Yeah, the survey just
Chris?
closed Monday night, so I couldn't include it in the packet from Friday. So that's why I didn't include it. I was going to update the packet, but I thought I would just email out those comments to you earlier. But yeah, due to this, when everything's closing, it didn't really jive with our meeting tonight.
To make it available to public, can we, at the very least, include it in the minutes?
Absolutely. Yep.
That might be a nice way to do that.
Okay.
Okay, then we can go on to the city administrator recruitment process and timeline.
You bet. So included in the packet was, I'm going to share my screen again, was what we were proposing for the recruitment process. I think this is it right here. All righty. So you're going to see multiple steps here. So we are meeting on Thursday to use the equitable hiring tool. So I included that in the packet. We're going to have Joe Maldonado on there. Jenny Peters, who used to be the HR director for MMSD, she'll be part of it too. She's in the Fitchburg community and she has a passion in D&I, diversity and inclusion. So she'll be part of it. Mandy Miller, who is our employee resource group champion. She's really kind of leading the Fitchburg Diversity Inclusion Employee Resource Group, and then HR, of course. So we're really excited to use this tool on Thursday and kind of walk through the different steps. We'll be looking at job description, interview questions, different things that we're going to use in the process, and really looking at everything through an equity lens. So that will be on Thursday. And so we're hoping to post a position next week. Basically, once it closes, HR will screen for minimum qualifications and make sure that we have, they're meeting at least the basic education and experience that's listed on the job posting. And then from there, our hope is to have a different council member at every step in the process. So we've got one using the equitable hiring tool. We've got one that will work with HR, the mayor, and to be part of the initial phone interview. So before we bring people in from, maybe they're not from here, maybe they're from out of state, we want to make sure we run through just a preliminary phone interview. So we would do that with another council member. And then we'd have our actual in-person interview day. So imagine, you've got your professional panel, including a different council member, and then we'll have a community presentation right after that. So we did this with command staff for police about, it wasn't even last year, it was 2 years ago already. And we gave them a predetermined topic, and they had time to kind of think about how their presentation was going to go. They had time to prepare for it before the actual interview day. But it was the same topic for all of the all of the candidates, because we wanted it to be an even playing field. And basically, they gave like a 15-minute presentation to a small group of community members. It worked out really well. And one thing that Mayor Richardson suggested was we could tape it, and this would be a way to share with the community, these are the candidates for city administrator. So just kind of throwing that out there as an option. We're here in a pandemic, having some type of virtual or, having something in person might not be feasible, but we want the community to be able to ask questions and meet these candidates. So these are things to kind of work through. But that day will be big. That will be hopefully in person. We'll take all precautions to make sure it's as safe as possible. And then we would hold a second day, less formal. So this would be like the day after. We wouldn't want someone to have to travel twice. And this would be a mayoral one-on-one interview. And then as well as meeting with the council as a group. So this would be your chance for the whole council to meet together as a group with each candidate one-on-one and ask any questions that you might have. So you'll have their qualifications in front of you. You'll have some kind of standard interview questions, but then if there's other questions you want to ask, as long as they're job related, you can ask those. So following that, typically we'd have like a public reception, but this is where we kind of have to figure out, are we going to do this virtually or offer both in person and virtually? How do we want to do this? So that's something we still kind of have to try to work out. This is just the proposed recruitment process. So, if we go through the equitable hiring tool on Thursday and find, we want to insert another process, or we want to do things a little differently, that tool will help us determine, is this something that we should do? Is there something we're not thinking about? But this is kind of our proposal for right now. And then if you go to the next day or the next slide, you'll see the tentative timeline. So this just kind of gives you some dates if you're kind of curious, okay, how long is this process going to be? We're anticipating posting the position the week of February 8th next week, and then closing it, giving a good month of it being open. And then you can see here, if you kind of follow all the way down, I mean, we're not looking to have a new hire probably until at least mid-June. And that's, of course, pending any type of, a notice they have to give their employer. So it's a lengthy process, but we feel like we've got some good steps in there, but I'd love to hear from personnel to see if you have suggestions, thoughts, ideas, any feedback you have on this proposed recruitment process.
One question that I know I had was, when we talk about bringing people in for in-person, who pays for their travel and housing expenses?
So we don't, surprisingly. So we had this happen with some department head members where when we were recruiting for a department head, specifically Director of Public Works, we don't reimburse for applicant travel. I don't know if there's anything in the ordinance that's specific to city administrator, if that is the only situation in which we do, but as far as I know, we don't reimburse applicants for travel. I'll check the ordinances just to make sure.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Gabby?
I have several. I guess, in terms of the first screen where you look at the minimum qualifications, I would be interested in knowing which of the qualifications that are listed in the job description those are, because there's like 20 or so listed, and I can't believe that all of those would be minimum qualifications. So I'm curious.
Let's jump to the job description. So remember, this job description isn't in final until we, use the hiring tool on it, but I'm going to take you to the job description and I can show you what HR looks at when we screen for minimum qualifications. It's, here we go. Here's the job description. So we're going to go to page 2. And if you look down here at minimum qualifications, so we are specifically looking to see, does this person have this education and or experience? So they have to have as it's written today, they have to have a degree in public administration, finance, HR, or related. They have to have 6 years of responsible municipal operations experience that includes supervisory and administrative responsibilities, and at least 3 years of progressively responsible experience in budgeting and financial management. So when I screen, that's, specifically what I'm looking for is, do they have the degree and do they have the experience? And remember, we can rewrite these qualifications. Do we need to have a degree, or do we need a certain degree that we should have listed here that we don't have listed here? Do we really need 6 years of experience? Do we need more? Do we need less? If someone doesn't have a degree but has more years of experience, can we use that? Those are all things that we'll talk about when we use the hiring tool on Thursday, because that will really help us, decide, hey, what are truly the qualifications for this position? And maybe most of this will stick. It all depends on how this goes. And the hiring team that uses this tool will also be looking at survey results, so they know what the community is looking for. And then they'll be able to look at the job description after we use the tool. Any certifications are required, that's another minimum qualifications. But beyond that, like, I can't look at an application and tell you if they have comprehensive knowledge of concepts, practices, and techniques of municipal management. I mean, some of these are so subjective, so it's really looking for, hey, does this person meet the education and experience requirements? And if they do, great, they're going to get a phone interview.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 bullets in those top 2 that are, the last word is desired. So the 3 years of budgeting, financial management is desired. CPM is desired, which I guess means to me that that's optional, or that's like
exactly. So yeah, so if there's anything that's desired, I'm not screening people out because they don't have it. It's only if it's required. So yeah, in that case, yeah, we wouldn't even look at the 3 years of budgeting financial. We would only be looking for 6 years of municipal operations experience that included supervisory and administrative responsibilities and the degree. the bachelor's degree.
And I have two more questions going back to the process, but I'll let Dorothy or Tom go first if you all have something.
You have anything, Tom?
I'm good right now, thanks.
Keep on keeping on then.
Okay,
Alright.
so in terms of the timeline, I do think that seems like a reasonable timeline in my mind. I wanted to ask if Misty and Mike are being supported with their extra roles, like is there extra compensation? You know, how are they being supported? Because
Yeah.
this is looking like a long time period before we'll be.
Right. Yeah, and that was my concern too. I mean, there are two stellar employees that have a lot on their plate right now, and so they are being compensated higher for their time as city administrator. So it's 100% their time since we lost our administrator that they're getting paid higher in this interim period. And then once we hire our city administrator, then they'll go back to their former positions 100% in their old pay as well.
Right.
Beyond that, it's checking in and making sure they're doing okay. So far so good. It's been only though a couple, actually a few weeks. So I think it's gonna be really important to just continue to check in with them and make sure they're doing okay, because they both have a lot going on.
Great. That's really good to hear. And then my last question, I guess, is in terms of the alder reps, I'm glad to hear that we're gonna kind of have a variety of alders weighing into different parts of the process. Is that something that you're gonna be deciding? Is the mayor appointing it? How does it work? And, is it gonna be someone from personnel committee? Is it gonna be the council president? Like, what are the parameters upon which those people are chosen?
Yeah. So the mayor is actually making the decision. Mayor Richardson, do you want to speak to how, who is chosen for which area of the recruitment process?
Yeah, sure. So because it's such a long process, I'm kind of leaning on the 4 people who are not up for reelection. And, but we do have that one part, there's one step later on where everyone on council does have the opportunity to meet, I think it's the finalists. So there is an opportunity for everyone on council at some point. I think, Sarah mentioned Joe is helping out with the equity tool. I believe that he has some experience with that. And so I thought that made a lot of sense for him to be involved with that. And then for the next step, I believe, when Sarah and I talked, we were gonna ask you, Gabriella, actually, to be involved with that if you're available. And then the third step would be Randy, and then there's a 4th step, which would be Shannon. And I think that's kind of helping
That was
out.
a city tour, yeah. There's gonna be a city tour, and we were hoping that one of the council members would take that time to, meet with the candidate, candidates less formally and be able to meet them there too.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love to be involved, so yeah, count me in.
Yeah, and and it's important for me that we do have that step at the end where everyone on the council can have some interaction, because I don't want it to be like some people can or can't or anything like that. But I did think that it made sense to lean on some of the people who are gonna be around.
I think Shannon could probably use a tour anyway. All right. Anything else on that topic then?
I meet with Mayor Richardson every week for an update every Thursday. So I'm more than happy to provide updates as personnel, as we meet. I can give you an update every time at one of our, regular scheduled meetings. Or if you have questions, you can call up anytime. I'm more than happy to let you know how things are going or what step we're at. But this tentative timeline, hopefully we should be, right around this time period for all the different steps. So Gabriella, when we look to have these phone interviews, we're going to be looking for the week of March 22nd, if you're at all available. So we don't know exactly the date, but around that time period.
And I know it goes into more the announcement thing, but is there a plan for another personnel committee? Or when are you guys suggesting personnel committee should meet during the process?
Yeah, so we can. So our next scheduled meeting would be April, but we can meet in March. It wouldn't be a bad idea, by the If we do end of March, we'll probably have more to share about the process. Would that be something that the committee would be open to, is meeting end of March? And then, you know, hopefully by then we'll already know how many people are proceeding to the panel interviews and the community panel presentation, and we can give you a better update of what the steps following will be, you know, more finalized.
That would
Okay.
probably be okay for me. We could, do kind of a doodle kind of thing to
Yep.
set something up.
Okay, no problem. I'll send a doodle out to the team to work on a end of March meeting.
Okay. Sorry. So kind of working down the agenda, do we want to talk more about the equitable hiring tool itself?
I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions about it. This is our first, so I want to thank the city of Madison for letting me use this hiring tool. I used to use this when I was there actually for a number of positions. So I've used it before and it's a great tool. You know, sometimes you can look at these minimum qualifications and realize, ooh, you know, here's some opportunity for changes, or, you know, essay questions as part of the application process. You know, we're going to definitely want some of those essay questions for this position. And so thinking about what types of questions we ask, I mean, this is a chance for us to ask a question on equity and maybe get an idea of what kind of experience they have related to that. So I just wanted to share with you a copy of what the tool looked like so you could, you know, just be aware that we're using it. We've got a diverse group using it. I'm really excited. So I think it's going to be a really good meeting on Thursday.
So are you still going to be looking for input on any tweaks to the tool?
Yeah, if you have looked at the tool already and you have some suggestions, please let me know. If you know right now, I can take them, or if you want to, you know, give me a call after, you know, feel free. Yep.
Does anyone have any feedback at this point? Tom?
Sarah, did you know, my hesitation is, I think it's a good tool to look at, but, you know, word for word, I don't think you are taking it that way, but, we're not Madison,
Right.
and just keep that in the back of your head, that's all.
Yep.
And number two, from the department heads, even some of the employees, I don't want to leave them out. Have they been, I guess, I could have missed it, but have they been sent a survey? Have they been sent about questions about administrator, what they'd like to see? I know that's pretty broad. Some of them, I'll pick on Public Works for a minute. Maybe they won't answer, that's okay, but at least they were given an opportunity. Was that anything like that to all of our employees sent out? Again, I'm going to repeat that. If they didn't want to answer it or they didn't, that's fine. That's their call. But was anything like that done?
Yeah, so on January 20th, when we sent the city administrator survey out, it wasn't only to the community, but I also emailed it out to all staff. So yeah, and based on some of the responses that I received back, I do see that some of them may have been employees. So yes, absolutely. All city employees had an opportunity to fill out the survey and indicate what was most important for them for this next administrator to have. Yep. That was really important to me. I think it's really important to get all of that employee feedback. It's a really important position for us.
And I'm glad so many, from the comment section of the survey, you could tell
Yeah.
that many of the responses were coming from staff. And I really appreciated seeing that. So people are welcome to continue looking at the tool and make any suggestions.
Absolutely.
I would somewhat disagree with Tom in saying it's not Madison, because we geographically, as far as the people that live here, are very much like Madison. We probably have a higher per capita number of, or percent of uh, various minority groups and whatever. So I think we need to pay at least as close of attention to this as Madison does. So I appreciate the thoroughness in it.
Well, and Dorothy, to echo that, it's really important that it's not always just HR posting these positions. I'm not a it's nicer to have a diverse group to be looking at all of these steps and to weigh in. I mean, our survey results indicate that they want to be at the table. We should be including diverse stakeholders and processes. And this is a perfect example of how we can do that. Without just, HR, looking at the job description and putting a job posting together and trying to get it out to different organizations when I could be working with other people to get such a different perspective. So I see this tool as a great resource because it's, again, pulling people in to have an honest conversation and look at things through an equity lens without just me doing it.
Mhm.
So that's why I like it. It just includes other people.
And a big part of that lens is who is not at the table.
Right. Right.
Because we have big portions of our population that we never hear from. And they need to be represented as well, whether we hear from them or not.
Exactly.
Okay, anything else on this topic from anywhere? If not, we can move on to city administrator job description.
Yeah, so I wanted to give you an opportunity. I know we just kind of combed through the job description really quick. We were looking at the minimum qualifications, but did personnel see anything in the job description that you wanted to, mention or make sure that we look at when we use the hiring tool? And it's okay if you haven't had a chance to look at it, to give that kind of feedback. If you look at, in the next couple of days, just let us know. And we can definitely take that into consideration.
Are you giving other staff a crack at looking this on the tool and things over as well?
So,
And getting feedback from various people?
not necessarily. So I haven't sent out the job description and asked for input from all staff. That was the goal of, including an employee from the employee resource group. And, then of course we've got our HR specialist too in there to weigh in as another employee. But, it's something that's out there that if employees are watching tonight and they want to, provide feedback. I know I had one employee stop in and mention that, one of the department heads is missing from the supervision on this job description. So I appreciate that. So if, any employee has any feedback, they can always provide it. I don't know if, emailing this out and asking for feedback from everyone, I don't know if, if that would be the approach, or not, but yeah, at this point I haven't.
I think if they just in general know that it's available for them to comment on, I think that might be a valuable thing.
Okay. And I'll make note.
Gabby, question.
A few things. Is the salary range going to be included?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always include our job salary on all of our job postings.
Great.
You bet.
Is the timeline going to be there? Like for best consideration apply?
Oh yeah, yep. Yeah, I like to be as transparent as possible. So we want to give people an idea of like, okay, when should they expect in-person interviews, or when should they expect, even if they have to do a community panel presentation, we'll actually have all of those different components of the recruitment process on the posting.
Fantastic. And then tomorrow when you're doing the equity tool, you may come across this, but the physical demand section, I would encourage you to just completely remove that because I don't see this position as requiring carrying heavy objects or even the ability to stand. So I just want to ask that question, ask for you to consider that from a...
Oh yeah, no, and that's a piece of the equitable hiring tool is to look at our physical demands and requirements and make sure that we don't have anything unnecessary in there. So absolutely we'll be looking at that. Yep.
Great. And then there were a couple of things that came up in the comments of the survey that I thought was interesting. One person said that being bilingual, like a Spanish and English speaker, was a
Okay.
desirable characteristic, especially since we have such a large Latino population and Spanish-speaking population. And then also residency requirement or encouragement. I don't know if either of those things could potentially be added to a survey as like characteristics that are desirable but not required. But I did think both of those were interesting, and I'd be interested to hear what you had to say about those.
Yeah, so we can post that we're looking, bilingual candidates strongly encouraged to apply. We do that right now with our police officer postings that's out there right now. To make it, we wouldn't make it a requirement, so to speak, but as it, we can definitely encourage people who are bilingual to apply. That's really important. The residency requirement is something we can't mandate. Back when we used to be able to require residency, but that's no longer. So that would be something that would be tricky. We could certainly, word the posting in a way to, say, being in Fitchburg is, there is a special additional payment that they receive if they live in Fitchburg. At least that was in the former administrator's contract. But that was, compensation related. So if you lived in Fitchburg, you got more money. I don't know if we'd want to, highlight anything like that on there, but we definitely can't require the residency.
Got it.
Yep.
And then I guess my last question then is, when you're doing the equity toolkit tomorrow, I assume that things may change. Is it possible for you to track the changes? I can see what has changed from this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. We meet on Thursday at 1. So after our meeting on Thursday, I can send the personnel team kind of like a track changes of the job descriptions. You can see what types of things were changed. You bet.
Yeah, and I might make some small suggestions here and there, but I don't think we need to bring it up right now because I assume that parts of this may change.
Okay.
by the end of the week.
You bet.
Anything from anyone else? If not, we can
Dorothy,
move on. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Dorothy, Sarah, are you gonna add building inspector under the department?
Yeah, that's the one that was missing, that the employee came in earlier and said, hey, I think you're missing somebody.
Okay,
So
good.
thank you for noting that. Yep,
Yeah,
that
I
will
had that one
definitely be added.
on my list. And then the only other comment I wanted to make is based on some of the survey results and then also using the equitable hiring tool. I don't see in the job description, it mentions about kind of supervising diverse municipal operations, but I don't see something that, and I just wrote down some wording here for what it's worth, but foster an environment that promotes and celebrates diversity, inclusion, and equity. I don't see any emphasis on that kind of in the job description there, and it seems like maybe there should at least be some mention of that focus.
Absolutely. Yep. That's exactly some of the things that come out of the hiring tool. That's something really important that I think a lot of our job descriptions are missing. We've had some of the same job descriptions for several years, and it's something as we update that we want to make sure we're doing a better job of is making sure that, ability to work with multicultural populations is in our job descriptions. And yeah, that's a really great observation, Mike.
Was that a raised hand, Tom?
I guess, honestly, Sarah, I took the old contract and I kind of compared it to some of this, just so you're aware of where I came from. And I'm not sure where some of this fits in, I admit it. But I think it's important. The salary, can you just give me a little idea? Are we going to start where the last administrator was, or would it be below that?
It all depends on their qualifications. So it more than likely is going to be below. We have our city administrator is not in our pay plan, so to speak. So we don't have, we can really work with their qualifications and where we're bringing them in at, but it's very unlikely that we're going to bring someone in at the high end of, where, our former administrator was already making. I think this position's anywhere from 110 to 150,000 annually. And our former administrator, as you know, is at the top end of that.
And also, I guess this is more for the mayor, is there a probationary period on this at all? like 4 months or 5 months. I'm not trying to scare a candidate away. It's just more of a curious question. Is there, cops get a probationary, I mean, is there a probationary period? I could have missed that.
That's a good question. I'm looking at the contract. So if there was any probationary period, it would be included in the contract. I don't think there is, because typically in their contract, it talks about if they're not meeting expectations, we've got the termination clause. So, if someone's not meeting expectations, and they, I'm guessing we'd follow what's in the
But
contract here.
Where I'm
And
yeah.
going
with that is if you hire someone and the mayor realizes it's not a good fit, or a couple of the alders are not happy with who we hired, or I'm not trying to make it derogatory at all, but my point is maybe you should look at a probationary period. We do that for a lot of important employees, the cops. There's a probationary period. If they don't pass it, they can be released. Just food for thought on that. I'm not, just an idea. And that integrity, it's interesting because just from our experience with the last administrator, it made me think of this, and I can't believe that it was that high with people, but integrity, I actually had a little definition. It's doing the right thing all the time, even when no one's listening, or when no one is looking. That, I'm happy that that's so high on people's agenda. I think that's great. And you've heard me say, I know this council's heard me say, not only the administrator, probably more than anyone, but they are in a fishbowl. All our employees are in a fishbowl. And we probably may want to just state, in there somewhere that every person, that we hire is associated with Fitchburg. It's somehow you want to word that or state in there. There's no doubt about it. I'm not trying to say there's a target on your back as much as I'm trying to say what city you work for. And I think that's important. How it's worded, no problem. But I think that's important.
Thank you.
We also got a note in chat from Joe asking if he can speak. So I will call on him now.
I just had one other point, if I could. This would be for the mayor, and this has been a problem in the city, and I want to raise it for the contract, or raise this. It's when the administrator is absent, obviously he gets vacation time, time off. It's real important, and there's no question about it. But Mayor, you may want to put in here, in the absence of the administrator, that I'm making this up now, the finance director or the clerk will be in charge, so that there's some consistency in the city. What's happening here is every time the administrator goes away or is on vacation, you get the finance director or you'll get the clerk. I've even seen it when the police chief's in charge. And that's fine, it's all fine. But I think it's better to have some consistency and have an individual when the administrator's not here and the mayor's out of town. Mayor's not always here. Somebody else is in charge. We should maybe designate that. Okay, and you want to pay him X amount of dollars more a year to do that job. You notice I'm not trying to say assistant administrator. I'm not trying to do that, but it's someone that can fill in when this administrator's not there, and you can rely on and have some consistency. What does that person have to have? In my eyes, history of the city. Not somebody that's been here maybe 5 years, but maybe somebody that's been here for 10, 15, 20. Again, it's just a thought. If you don't like the idea, I'm fine with it, but you would have, you wouldn't be bouncing all around when the administrator's not here. And we've had that problem in the city. I can go back in time and the administrator's not here and I want to speak to him, and oh, he's not here now and the police chief's in charge. Oh, okay, fine, okay. They're not here, but the finance director's in charge. Oh, okay, oh, all right. Just a thought. Does any other community have that? Do you know, Sarah?
I'm sure, typically job descriptions will indicate, who's in charge in their absence. I mean, I know we have that for a lot of our department heads. And it wouldn't be that hard to put something like that into our job description for a city administrator to indicate who is, who's responsible in their absence. So we could certainly do that.
Food for thought. That's the mayor's call. I mean, who he'd like to have in that. I'm not trying to call somebody out on that. I'm not at all. That's the mayor's call. But the fact is I think there should be consistency in the city, consistency. I'm not talking about right now. It's in a different situation. We have a clerk and economic development person. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in the future so that you'd have one person.
Dorothy, do you want me to?
Yep, go for it, Aaron. I saw your hand.
Yeah, so the administrator is supposed to be notifying myself and I think maybe department heads and maybe council. I can't remember what's in the contract whenever they're gone and identifying someone. I don't know that it was always happening towards the end, but they are supposed to. I believe that in general, and that this would be my recommendation for the new person, that there is a priority order, like it's usually this person, this person, this person. The issue that you come into would be like in the summer on a Friday, a lot of people have vacations. And so there might be 2 or 3 people who are gone, which is why, the administrator might be on vacation, but so is the finance director and economic development director and the HR director. So that's where sometimes it ends up being chief of police or public works or other people as well. So I think there is generally an order, but because of vacations and stuff like that, it does still move around more than you'd like it to.
I'm with you, Mayor. I thought you'd make a comment like that. I understand that you can't always have the same person, but if there's a little bit more consistency, it would help the city. That's all I'm trying to push. That's all I'm saying. I understand that the people get vacation. I totally get it. But I know in the years that I've been here, and it's just bounced all around. And when if we could just be a little more consistent on that, but it's just food for thought,
I think if there's a established pecking order that's published, that would be a good thing. Let's hear from Joe.
Sure. So I was I was thinking about saving this until I met with Sarah, but I just wanted to kind of put it out to the personal community to consider. I had a conversation with somebody who is a city administrator in another state, and they're sort of tied to different professional networks. I'm assuming this is going to be, part of the recruitment process, but when it comes to ethics, I noticed that the International City County Management Association actually has a code of ethics that all their members adhere to. You can look it up pretty easily on Google. There's an abridged version that has like 12 sort of points that everybody that's a member of their organization has to adhere to. A more extended version that has sort of guidelines for their members. So I know we had certain things in place in the city administrator contract, but that might be just worth a look at to see if there's something that's in those that is not included in our last contract that we may want to embed or even maybe have some additional weight behind. Like instead of we suggest, more it's like we require that. And I'm just, hearkening back to some things that happened with our previous administrator. The other thing I wanted to say is reading the equity tool it looks like there's a question in the recruitment process about making sure that we're reaching out to diverse networks. And I just want to make it a point that, you know, we do live in Wisconsin and if we sort of embed within our process that the person needs to be from here or has been here for 5 or 10 years, that we would be limiting our potential pool of diverse candidates, right? Because if you're looking for somebody who has been a city administrator, who has a degree in, you know, public administration or something similar, and you have all these comments in the survey that say we want people that represent diverse backgrounds applying, and then you put something in there that says that they've had to be from Wisconsin or from Fitchburg, you basically cut down that possibility to zero. So I want to put that out there because, you know, Fitchburg does have a certain local roots, but also a large percentage of our residents, you know, did not grow up here, aren't multi-generational part of Fitchburg. You know, you have a lot of people that are in the city that, you know, pay taxes, that are participants in the city, that have only been here 2 or 3 years, 1 year, and they're part of the city too. So I think we're limiting ourselves if we say that it's got to be somebody that's from here. You know, I'll just leave it at that.
Tom?
I can't let that go by. Joe, I don't know where you're getting that information from, because I would think we want the best candidate, no matter where they're from. May they be from Wisconsin, or we could have somebody just over the border in Rockford, and if they want to apply, they apply. I don't know at all where you're getting that information, because it's open to we want the best candidate. And whoever that is, whoever sees this, the job description is what I'm trying to say, whoever sees this can apply. And that makes no difference of the color of their skin or who they are. And the other thing, it's a female. I noticed through the last contract we had, it was all male. It could be a female. And we want the best candidate. And that goes across many lines. And that's all I wanted to say in reference to that. It's wide open as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you then, if that's the case. I thought in your comments you had said something, I might have misheard you, about the person having sort of had to been in this area for a certain period of time. If you didn't say that, then
Oh, no, wait a minute. Let me clarify that. You totally misquoted me. Totally misquoted me. And I don't like that at all. What I was referring to was, if we have somebody that takes administrator's spot when they're not here, and the person would be here within the city, they work for the city maybe longer than, 2 or 3 years, maybe somebody for 5 or 10 years. What I'm referring to is employees that are here that would be the acting administrator when the administrator's on vacation, out of town.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah,
I'm referring to.
I might have misheard what you said, so just a misunderstanding.
That's fine. Yeah, no problem.
And I wasn't certain whether you were asking about residency requirement as part of the job, or whatever might have been was a little bit of a question that I had as well. So, but I think we understand one another now. Gabby?
One thing that just occurred to me, since we're talking about, hopefully attracting people from all over as applicants, is the description going to include some sort of description of the city of Fitchburg, like who we are, how big we are? What our demographics
Absolutely.
look like? Okay.
Yeah, we'll have a job brochure, and it'll include the demographics, all about the city, our budget, our people, everything. So it's not just here's a job summary. We actually we'll have a nice brochure and photos and a lot of information in there, just like we do for our department heads. Yep.
That's great.
And any sense of what's the status of new census numbers yet? Whether we'll be able to include new census numbers with it?
I hope so. I don't know yet if that's available. Maybe Mike, do you know if that's something that would be available? I'm not sure of that.
The last that I saw was that that was gonna be delayed, I think, even with the release of the numbers.
How will that impact redistricting then? If there's a delay? Is that an Aaron question?
If you don't mind me jumping in, I asked Tracy that question this morning and, or this afternoon, I should say, and she's gonna check on that because I think it will probably delay that. That's my expectation, but she was gonna confirm that because when I saw that too, I thought, oh, wait a minute, does that mean redistricting can't start until, June, July, something like that instead? So we're finding that information out right now.
Joe noted, April 1 according to census website in chat. Hopefully that works out that way. Can we go off topic a little bit and ask what is, again, pecking order for who gets to do redistricting in what order, between us, the county, and the state? In the past, traditionally, redistricting was done first by municipalities, and then the county based their work off of what the municipality did. But in the last census, the state grabbed dibs and decided to make theirs first, and everyone else had to adapt to them. Probably between Mike and Aaron, do you guys know if the state intends to be first through the gate again this time?
I'm not sure about the state, but from what I was seeing, the county is supposed to go before us, and the county does their, where people are and sets that, and then we kind of base it off of that because I think in the county state piece, I don't know if that's together or maybe, but from what I saw, the county actually is supposed to do theirs first because I think the county is supposed to be, well, it was originally supposed to be done in March, I believe.
Okay. So for me, it's still a yet to be seen question.
Okay.
Anything else under any of the agenda items before we go on to announcements then? Gabby? And then Tom.
I just want to reiterate that I don't know how the contract update is happening, but I think there's some good ideas, probationary period consideration, having the code of ethics embedded in the contract in some way. I think those are all really interesting ideas. I assume this has to go through legal in ways that I don't quite understand. So maybe that's something we can talk about at a later date, because obviously that doesn't need to be solidified today. But I would be interested in learning about that process, and maybe the March meeting might be a good time for that.
Absolutely. Can I just mention with probationary periods? So even our non-represented employees don't have probationary periods. So they're all at-will employees. So if, and same with our city administrator. So that's likely why we treat him, we don't have any mention of probationary periods. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that our non-represented employees, meaning non-represented by police and fire contracts, are at will and don't have probationary periods. But yeah, we can add that to our March agenda, is to look at the contract a bit more. You bet.
Cool. And you had a hand up too, Tom?
Yeah, thanks, Dorothy. Just in ending, I just want to make sure that the other members of the committee are aware of it. I did talk to Mike about this, but I think it's real important to put this, you've heard of some of these, but make the announcement in the Wisconsin Counties Association, make the announcement in the City and Villages Association, make the announcement in the League of Municipalities. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of these out there that are cities, villages, towns are all, they watch that. A lot of the employees that are working for these places watch those. And the other thing I want to get out there, and I'll leave it up to the committee, but I think it's real important. I'm a real stickler on this. I think it's real important that we do a background check and we don't have our police chief or anybody in our department do the background check. Think about that. The background check on this individual should be by a retired FBI agent, a retired detective, and also it's very easy to overlook a DL. I was talking to an FBI agent who was retired, and he told me, he said, so many city and villages won't run a DL check on an individual. And there's some things there you can find out pretty quick. I don't have anything against our police department, of course, but I just think it, again, keeps it clean. It gives a good representation to the individual too, that, you know, we're just making sure that the background check is an outside agency. It's just food for thought. That's all I want to tell you about that.
Might be a good suggestion to talk to the same group that we were gonna have do the investigation and ask them if they'd be willing to do background check.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Gabby.
And just one final note, I think this looks like a good plan. You know, I've had a lot of feedback, but I think overall, this looks like a good process. The timeline looks good. And really excited about, you know, the analysis you're gonna be doing on Thursday. And I think there's a lot of potential for us to find someone exciting, someone that we're gonna be really happy to work with. So thanks for all your work on this, and I look forward to learning more as we move forward.
Thank you.
I would absolutely second that. Announcements then.
Dorothy, could I just,
Go ahead, Mike.
Dorothy, yeah, Sarah, did you say that the contract language was gonna come back in the next month or the next meeting?
Yeah, we can bring it on as an agenda item and just talk a little bit more about the contract and talk through some of those items.
Okay. I was just gonna echo what Tom had said as far as the language, so it's not just limited to he and him. So it's more welcoming to all populations and diversities. And then under the performance review there, and this is maybe for you and the mayor, because I know you have been talking about, I think is it the 360 performance review?
Yep. You
That
got it.
maybe that be included in
Yeah.
some of this language or some consideration there.
Very good.
We need a lot more non-gender pronouns.
Yep.
Our society hasn't managed to grow our language with an adequate number of non-gender pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
Says something about our society. Announcements again.
I just have one announcement. I wanted to let you know, so Mandy Miller, she works in our senior center. I don't know if you've had a chance to meet her. She's phenomenal. She's one of our, basically one of our leads in our Fitchburg Diversity Inclusion Employee Resource Group. And next week, she's going to be starting to facilitate a 9-week course from Dr. G on Black history. So she actually went through that course at the UW level, and they gave her the permission to facilitate it. They did some training with her, and she's going to facilitate a group of us to do it. And it's been approved to do for 2 hours every Tuesday for 9 weeks while on city time. So it's wonderful that the city is completely behind it, and our staff, we have about 12 or so staff that are going to be part of this, mostly members of our employee resource group, but some other employee members too. So very exciting that we all get a chance to learn about Black history, and that Mandy's willing to facilitate and has that knowledge, and that Dr. G has allowed us to do this as a group and not, at the UW system after hours type of thing. So I just wanted to share that, the diversity inclusion group is doing some really great things, and you guys should be proud. So just wanted to mention that.
Sarah, you taking other suggestions? Can I mention something?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, Dorothy? Or?
Yep.
Okay. I won't be here, but for the next council, there may be a situation where the mayor would have to approve it. This is brought to my attention, and over the years, I think it's something the city's missed. But as alders get elected, their picture should hang in the city hall as you enter the building. And then as they drop out or obviously get reelected, you could just leave them, but other communities have that, and I think it's important to the citizens that they see and they know who their elected official is. And it's just food for thought. You come in and it could even be in a glass out here where you put pictures of alders in their district under it, that's all. Don't put anything else, just their name, their district, and that's it. And you change the pictures. You don't have to put this American flag behind the photo, nothing like that. All you put is their picture and then keep changing those. I think it's a simple project, and I think it would be good for the community to see who these people are that get elected.
And that would end up having to change annually now, keep in mind.
Yep. But we have the staff, I think, that could do it. It's a quick snapshot. And, well, I'll give you something else, and it's not the mayor's fault. Because of COVID, we didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't have a picture of this whole council. I'm not looking for it. Don't go there. But we didn't have a picture of this whole council. And it's because of what we've gone through. There's alders that I can think of that haven't been in the building. I haven't even seen them at this table. And I understand why. It's not their fault. It's because of what we're going through. But food for thought, I think we should expand on having photos of elected officials. You could change them, keep changing them. I think that's a simple project. And have an area outside this door. So even when I can remember, I'll give you an example. I can remember the smoking ban when we had it. Remember that, Mike? And this room was overcrowded. People were asking me what they look like. And some people don't pay attention. But food for thought, you may want to put pictures up. They do it at the police department. The mayor gets his picture in every magazine and everything. I'm kidding. Just elected officials and you're going to start out fresh now in April, and food for thought. That's all.
And Gabby's next, and I'm going to call on Joe.
A side note, Tom, I think that's a great idea. I think people knowing who, like what faces, checking faces and names and positions, I think is really important. So I think that's a fantastic suggestion if it's possible to implement. Sarah, is it possible for any of the alders to sit in on that course on Black history?
So it's $300 per person, and it's very, it has to be like specific to whoever's enrolled. So if you want to join us, and it's just $300, and we're trying to get it virtual too, so you don't have to be there in person for the full 2 hours, but you could do it from anywhere. So it's every Tuesday from 1 to 3. So yeah, absolutely. If anyone is interested and doesn't mind, the $300, that would be perfect. Yeah,
Great.
we'd love to have you. We have room.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And Joe.
Yeah. Question for anybody with any considerable amount of history here. The other suggestion that was brought to my attention was sort of after elections having an alder council / city administrator retreat. Obviously, it would have to be public, but from the perspective that I got, it's not something that's terribly well attended by the public, but the way it was described to me is a chance for folks to be able to sort of say why they're there, express their values, their vision, for everybody to be able to exchange with one another and hear that, and to be able to move forward, with a way that the administrator can respond to that in their practices. Something a little bit different from an orientation where folks can, just like you'd have at any company, where you have a company retreat. And I also like Tom's idea, and I also feel like we need to have sort of sections on the web page with our pictures and our email addresses and, you know, potential to blog or give updates if we need to, similar to what I've seen in some other cities.
Yeah, I've tried in the past to have what I wanted to be an interactive email list per district, if not per alder. That would be part of the city function. That hasn't worked out the way I wanted it to. Okay, what's left yet?
That's all I've got for announcements.
If there's nothing else, then I would take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. All in favor? Oh, Aaron's hand first.
He's saying
Oh,
bye.
he's
Oh,
saying bye. Okay. So all in favor of adjourning? Aye? Aye. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.